we have to take the second session of anti-anginal drugs. Okay, in the last class we have held all these slides. We discussed nitrates, their mechanism of action, their different pharmacological dosage forms, then the uses, tolerance, then we came to beta blockers, then to calcium channel blockers, their mechanism of action, different drugs, pharmacological actions, clinical uses, and adverse effects. So, till this much we have done in the last session. Moving forward, today we are going to look into the clinical aspect. Suppose there is a patient with angina and is having comorbidities. एंगाइना तो है ही, साथ में कोमॉर्बिडिटीज हैं. दैट कैन बी अस्थमा, दैट कैन बी हाइपरटेंशन, दैट कैन बी डायबिटीज, और दैट कैन बी chronic kidney disease, that is CKD. So the broad three drugs which we have discussed in the last session, they need to be administered judiciously depending upon the clinical condition of the patient. And you can see, or point to be noted herein is, so here we are discussing the three important drugs given differently in different clinical conditions. And suppose there is a patient with angina and is developing myocardial infarction without any comorbidities, then you can prefer to give all the three. But if there is MI developing, then you need to not give calcium channel blockers. They are contraindicated in the case of developing MI. अब वो पता कैसे चलेगा कि इसको MI डेवलप होगा ही? See, there are certain causating factors. जैसे कोई लॉन्ग टर्म स्मोकर है, 10 साल से स्मोकर है, 5 साल से स्मोकर है, या कोई लॉन्ग टर्म डायबिटिक है 5 साल से, 10 साल से, और या फिर कोई लॉन्ग टर्म हाइपरटेंसिव है. ओके, 10 साल 20 साल की हिस्ट्री दे रहा है कि मुझे हाइपरटेंशन है. तो दीज आर द थिंग्स विच विल हेल्प यू टू क्लिंच द डायग्नोसिस कि यस, he will be developing MI surely, and therefore then you order for the ECG and other investigations. So the important over here we have to see is that if you are suspecting that yes, MI will happen, you need not to give calcium channel blocker. If the person gives you the history of asthma or COPD, that is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, then you need not to give beta blocker. And if the person gives you a history of diabetes, then again you need not to give beta blocker. Okay, ये चीजें आपको ध्यान में रखनी है when you go into the clinical posting and look at the patients. So today we will be starting with the potassium channel opener, which is Nicorandil. Now this nicorandil is having a dual action. It opens the ATP sensitive potassium channels and leading to arteriolar dilatation, as well as it is going to release the nitric oxide, causing even venule dilatation. So at the level of vascular smooth muscle cell, the action will be vasodilatation, and on cardiomyocyte you will see that there will be reduction in the cardiac work. This is how the nicorandil is going to act. But आपको ये ध्यान रखना है कि जो फर्स्ट सेशन में हमने 3 ड्रग क्लासेस की बात की है, दे आर द मेन स्टेक होल्डर्स when you are treating a case of angina. आज जितनी भी हम ड्रग्स की बात करेंगे, they are only having minor effect. They are all adjuvants. मान लीजिए आपने मेन ड्रग दे दी, फिर भी इफेक्ट नहीं आया, तो क्या देंगे? फिर हम उसको वो वाले ड्रग्स देंगे जिनका हमें ऑलरेडी पता है कि इफेक्ट आता है, कम आता है, बट वी हैव नो अदर ऑप्शन, क्योंकि हमें तो पेशेंट को सही करके भेजना है. ओके, सो द 3 मेन स्टेक होल्डर्स will remain the same, that is calcium channel blocker, beta blocker and nitrates. And today whatever drugs we are discussing, they are having a very minor role, so they are said to be adjuvants in the treatment of angina. So what does the nicorandil does? It reduces the preload and the afterload. Okay, and it stimulates the ischemia preconditioning due to the activation of mitochondrial potassium channels, potassium based ATP channels. And then when you talk of pharmacokinetics, it is having a biphasic elimination with the initial rapid phase of T half life of 1 hour and the later slow phase T half life of 12 hour. Dosage 10 to 20 milligram BD. Used in chronic stable angina and vasospastic angina. Very mild side effect of flushing, palpitation, dizziness and aphthous ulcer. So when you talk of the ischemic preconditioning, now see what is going to happen when there is ischemia. Then ischemia remains for how long? This is important. Ischemia remains, say, for seconds, then tissue injury will not happen. For tissue injury to happen, when I say tissue injury, that means myocardial injury. Myocardium के सेल की डेथ होने के लिए there has to be constant ischemia persisting for few minutes. तब जाके, क्योंकि क्या होगा जब ischemia डेवलप होगा, तो reperfusion which activates due to autoregulation, हमारा वो जो सेल है वो मरना नहीं चाहेगा, so autoregulatory mechanism start at the level of cell and that tries to prevent itself. But when the ischemia persists for a long time, then this will definitely happen that there will be myocardial injury and the cardiac cell will die. Once the necrosis happens, एक बार necrosis हो जाएगा तो आप दुनिया की कोई सी भी दवाई देते रहो, कुछ नहीं होगा. You can't help the patient then. वो उतना ही ejection fraction हार्ट का लेके घूमेगा. Normal ejection fraction being 60 to 65. If there is myocardial injury due to ischemia and now the ejection fraction falls to 30%, so you have nothing more to give except to support the 30% heart. Okay, so the importance lies in quick management of the patient with the available drugs and available knowledge. So we were talking about ischemia. If it is prolonged, then only it can result into tissue injury, and if reperfusion starts and ischemia then declines, then the level of injury will reduce. So here when we say that there is ischemic preconditioning, so preconditioning means that pharmacological treatment have been started before sustained ischemia persists. And when you say कि sustained ischemia हो चुका है, अब reperfusion start हुआ है, तो at that time it is termed as pharmacological post pharmacological intervention. Okay, so this is a very vague decision, क्योंकि ये आप practically नहीं कर पाएंगे कि अंदर क्या चल रहा है, but theoretically we can understand that this is going to happen like this, क्योंकि practically तो you have to give whatever is available with you. You can't wait कि हम इस चीज को बाद में देंगे. You have to give at the onset. So another drug is dipyridamole. Now this drug, it is having this mechanism of action at the level of platelet and at the level of smooth muscle cells of the blood vessel. So it prevents the activation of the platelet, thereby it is used in coronary thrombosis as well as cerebrovascular thrombosis prevention. And this drug also is inhibitor of phosphodiesterase, so it is going to help in bringing out vasodilatation, which will be good for angina condition. But the problem with this drug is that this shows coronary steal phenomena. Now the drug was developed with the mindset कि it will help the angina patient, but it did reverse, that it reflected coronary steal phenomena in the sense कि जो resistance vessels हैं within the wall of the myocardium, at the site of ischemic zone, जो resistance vessels हैं जहाँ पे ischemia हुआ है, वहाँ पे ये vasodilatation कराना चाहिए था. But when you give dipyridamole, it surprisingly shifts the blood towards the healthier heart. So therefore we call it as a coronary steal phenomena. Once again I would say कि जहाँ हार्ट के अंदर कार्डियक वॉल है, उसकी मसल में एक इस्चेमिक जोन क्रिएट हुआ. इस्चेमिक जोन क्रिएट हुआ तो हम ये चाहेंगे कि जहाँ इस्चीमिया है वहाँ की ब्लड वेसल्स डायलेट हों, सो दैट मोर ब्लड सप्लाई हैपन्स एट द इस्चेमिक जोन. बट ये चीज, दिस वाज द क्रक्स behind development of dipyridamole, and dipyridamole dilated the resistance vessels across the whole heart, but unfortunately it diverted more blood towards the healthier heart and diverted less blood towards the heart which was in the ischemic zone. Therefore this is termed as coronary steal phenomena, wherein it was a pharmacological success but a therapeutic failure, because we could not revert the clinical condition of the patient. Okay, so you can see in this diagram also that in the dipyridamole, where the blood flow is there, so you can see that blood flow to the ischemic area is reduced, while blood flow to the normal area is increased. So another drug is trimetazidine. Now this drug is cytoprotective. Cyto is your cell and protection happens at the level of cell. So trimetazidine जो आपका सेल है, मायोकार्डियल सेल, उसके अंदर यूजुअली देयर इज ग्लूकोज ऑक्सीडेशन पाथवे, बट जहां पे इस्चीमिया डेवलप हुआ, एट दैट साइट द सबस्ट्रेट शिफ्ट टुवर्ड्स द फैटी एसिड oxidation. Now, when there is fatty acid oxidation to release the ATPs, तो it consumes more oxygen. Therefore, ये metabolic pathway को shift करने वाली drug है trimetazidine, and once it shifts the metabolic pathway back from fatty acid oxidation to glucose oxidation, so it is going to decrease the oxygen demand for the heart. So it is once again an adjuvant drug, and this is how it works. जो fatty acid oxidation का pathway है उसको ये ब्लॉक करेगा और वापस से ग्लूकोज ऑक्सीडेशन के पाथवे पे लाएगा. ओके, सो इट इज एक्टिंग एट द लेवल ऑफ इस्चेमिक मायोकार्डियल सेल के लेवल पे एक्शन है. अनदर साइटोप्रोटेक्टिव ड्रग इज रेनोलाजीन. नाउ दिस रेनोलाजीन with these characteristic feature is again having a minor effect, and you can see that this ranolazine will bring out its effect by decreasing the overall contractility of the heart. जो हार्ट की एक नॉर्मल कॉन्ट्रैक्टिलिटी है उसको जितना ऑक्सीजन चाहिए उसके लिए, तो कॉन्ट्रैक्टिलिटी को कम करके ये ऑक्सीजन डिमांड कम करेगी ड्रग. ओके, सो इट इज गोइंग टू रेनोलाजीन इज गोइंग टू ब्लॉक द सोडियम चैनल. सोडियम चैनल को ब्लॉक करेगा, एंड वंस सोडियम चैनल इज ब्लॉक्ड, देन द सोडियम एंड कैल्शियम चैनल एक्सचेंजर, usually what is happening कि sodium comes inside the cell, and then sodium from inside cell moves out through the sodium calcium exchanger, and then the calcium comes in. This ranolazine blocks the sodium entry, which indirectly blocks the calcium overload within the cell. And once the calcium overload is not there, then wall tension will reduce, and then it will help by decreasing the oxygen demand. So this is the mechanism by which ranolazine drug it is going to act, and it is very commonly used. Although it has got minor effect, both trimetazidine, ranolazine, they are very commonly used. आप कोई भी प्रेस्क्रिप्शन उठा के देखेंगे, you will have 80 to 90% prescriptions will have these drugs. Okay, then the third important drug is ivabradine, which is a basically direct bradycardia agent. It acts on the SA node. SA node पे there are funny channels where it is going to act. In the above portion of the diagram, you will see that there is a normal physiology wherein beta receptor is there on the heart, and another is the F channel, that is the funny channel present on the SA node. So through that the sodium comes in and potassium goes out. Now when you give ivabradine, then it is going to act through the funny channels. बीटा ब्लॉकर का मैकेनिज्म एक्शन बीटा ब्लॉकर रिसेप्टर के थ्रू होगा, दैट इज बीटा रिसेप्टर बीटा 1 के थ्रू होगा, एंड इन एडिशन टू दैट जो फनी चैनल का ब्लॉकिंग है दैट इज डन थ्रू द ivabradine. Sometimes what happen is कि we give beta blocker and the heart rate doesn't come down to that extent to which we want, then we have to add on the ivabradine. Actually, patients are very live, and that is what the clinical IQ you has to use. क्योंकि आप किसी को कोई पैरामीटर फिक्स नहीं है कि हमने कोई पेशेंट आया उसके हार्ट रेट 120 है, हमने बीटा ब्लॉकर दे दिया, अभी भी हार्ट रेट उसकी 110 ही आई है, ओके, तो हम क्या करेंगे? वी हैव टू देन ऐड द this ivabradine, which is going to further decrease the heart rate in addition to the role of beta blockers. Although their effects are minor, but sometimes you have to have these minor effects also so as to bring the patient parameter into a normal range. So another concept जो अभी तक हमने देखी, they are the dipyridamol, ranolazine, trimetazidine, and the last one is ivabradine. They have got minor effects, but they are of very importance as per the clinical condition of the patient. Next, coming to the drugs used in the peripheral vascular disease. So first of all, we have to see what is peripheral vascular disease. Obviously, peripheral means peripheries, and vascular the blood vessels present at the peripheries. कहीं ना कहीं वहाँ पे दिक्कत है. So what can be the problem? That is, occlusion is one, and the very famous is the Buerger's disease. Another is vasospastic, that is a Raynaud's phenomena. Wherever there is vasospasm in the blood vessels, that is the peripheral blood vessels, then it will create Raynaud's phenomena. Or there can be both occlusion as well as vasospasm. Both can be seen in certain clinical conditions like diabetic patients. They suffer from microangiopathy. उनकी blood vessels जो हैं periphery पे उनका diameter धीरे धीरे कम होता है with age, with the extent of duration of diabetes. So such clinical conditions, they will be coming under peripheral vascular diseases. So what are the drugs? So these are the basic drugs with different mechanism of action. Now we have a rheological agent, that is pentoxifylline. Then we have phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitors, cilostazol. Another antiplatelet drugs, aspirin, clopidogrel, teicoplanin, and antioxidant vitamin E, very minor role. And when you talk of vasodilators, that is the peripheral vasodilators, they are the direct acting cyclendilate, xanthinol nicotate, then beta agonist isoxaprine, alpha adrenergic blockers, prazosin and phenoxybenzamine, calcium channel blocker, nifedipine, felodipine, and prostacyclin. So you are already aware, I think, with beta adrenergic agonist, alpha blockers, and calcium channel blockers. So the newer ones we will take currently. Cyclendilate, once again it is a having a vasodilatation action and increases the cutaneous, skeletal, muscle and cranial blood flow. So specifically used in the vasospastic condition. See, first of all, peripheral vascular diseases के patients, they are less in number, like as compared to the heart diseases, and so जो इसकी drugs हैं, they are also having kind of minor effect only. Then another is the xanthinol nicotinate, which is again having a vasodilatation action. The third important drug is pentoxifylline. It has got basically a kind of different mechanism of action as it reduces the blood viscosity. ये ड्रग है जिसका बिल्कुल टोटली डिफरेंट है मैकेनिज्म ऑफ एक्शन, एंड इट रिड्यूसेस द ब्लड विस्कोसिटी. जब ब्लड की विस्कोसिटी कम होगी तो देयर विल बी इंक्रीज इन ब्लड फ्लो, ओके, एंड व्हेन ब्लड फ्लो इज मोर द इस्चीमिया इज गॉन. So this mechanism is actually termed as rheological, when you are going to improve the blood flow by decreasing the blood viscosity. Okay, and this is used in intermittent claudication, which is seen in the Burgess disease, transient ischemic attack, or the chronic cerebrovascular insufficiency. Another drug is cilostazol, which is again a phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitor and is having a vasodilatation as well as platelet aggregation inhibiting effect. So it is used in intermittent claudication. So what is intermittent claudication? Can anyone tell? Intermittent claudication क्या होता है? See, it is basically a symptom when the person walks for some duration, then he feels pain. Okay, that is basically termed as intermittent claudication. While walking, the person feels pain after some time because the peripheral vascular system is not adequate to support the oxygen demand supply at the level of calf muscles specifically. Okay, so when we say that person gives a history of ki I am walking for some time and then the calf muscles pain, that means there is a possibility that he may be having a peripheral vascular disease, as he is telling us about the pain which is generated after some time of walking. So what is the basic contraindication in cilostazol is not given in the cases of heart failure and when the pain is at rest. So this is how it is going to act as phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitor. Now the important, or I would say very important, management of myocardial infarction, because when you go to emergency or in your emergency postings, you will definitely find one or two cases of myocardial infarction, which you commonly call as heart attack. So first of all, you have to categorize that what is the problem, and to a person coming in chest pain. So the acute coronary syndrome is the broad classification, wherein we classify basis on the pathology that whether it is incomplete occlusion or a complete occlusion of the coronary artery. If there is incomplete occlusion, then upon ECG the findings will be either ECG will be normal or there will be ST segment changes. I think do you have some idea of ECG? From physiology you might have gained in. So ST segment changes seen in ECG. Then another important is the biochemistry markers, which are basically the CK and the MB or TROP-T or TROP-I. Now these are the biochemical markers which are released into the blood when there is ischemia and leading to necrosis of the heart wall. So if the biochemistry markers are increased, then it is going to be non-ST segment elevation MI. Okay, and the ECG suggests that it is the only ST segment changes are minor, there is no elevation, so then it is going to be your non-ST segment elevation MI. Okay, अब ना ही कोई ECG में चेंज आ रहा है और ना ही कोई मार्कर एलिवेटेड है, then it is going to be simple unstable angina. And the third condition is where pathological there is a complete occlusion of the blood vessel, that is the coronary vessel is completely occluded, that is that complete occlusion. In that case you are going to have ST segment elevation MI. जब आप ECG देखेंगे तो उसका ST segment it will be very much high above the baseline. Okay, so that can give you a clinical sense that this will be complete occlusion in the artery resulting in ST segment elevation MI, and then confirmed through the elevated biomarkers, that is the CKMB and TROP-T, TROP-I. So usually on prescriptions you will see the word ACS written, ACS referring to acute coronary syndrome, and acute coronary syndrome can be divided into these three parts, that is your unstable angina or non-ST segment elevation MI, or it can be your MI, that is ST segment elevation MI. So the most dangerous out of the three is ST segment elevation MI. Now the drugs used in the treatment of MI. So the clinical condition, patient will be having definitely pain, anxiety. So you start giving the nitrates, that is nitroglycerin. You are going to give 3 doses, okay, 5 minutes apart. First you will give 1 dose of 5 mg, then look at the clinical symptoms whether they have been resolved. Resolve नहीं हुए, patient still complains कि नहीं, I am having pain still, give the second dose, then another wait for 5 minutes, and if still the pain persists, give the third dose of the nitroglycerin, that is the nitrates. And if still after 15 minutes the pain persists, then you have to give the opioid analgesic, which is the morphine. Okay, so this is how you are going to manage the pain and the anxiety. Then definitely when you put the saturation probe and oxygen saturation, if it is below 90%, then you need to give the oxygen therapy. And if BP is below 90, then you need to give dopamine, which is basically going to improve the blood pressure. And if there is decrease in heart rate, then you need to give atropine. And if there is tachycardia, okay, then you need to give diltiazem. So it is depending upon the clinical condition with which the presentation is, and accordingly you are going to give the medication. So another point will be maintenance of the blood volume. Now here simple drip of normal saline or dextrose you got to add, but you have to be very cautious that you do not overload, क्योंकि आपको ड्रिप अगर आपने फास्ट दी है तो it will overload the heart and it will be that heart को हम बचाने की बजाय we may be losing it. So you do not have to give drip at a fast rate, you have to give it at a very patent rate. Okay, and then there is correction of acidosis, क्योंकि जहाँ इस्चीमिया होगा वहाँ पे लैक्टिक एसिड बनेगा and that will result in acidosis. So to manage it you need to give the soda bicarb IV infusion. Then the presentation can be with arrhythmias. Okay, क्योंकि जो आपका हार्ट का इम्पल्स कंडक्शन है that is from SA node to AV node से then bundle of His and then bundle of His से it goes to the Purkinje fibers. and then this is how the synchronization between the systole and the diastole takes place. So if a particular area or a particular wall of the heart is not functioning, when you say there is anterior wall myocardial ischemia, or you say there is inferior wall myocardial ischemia, और it is a lateral wall myocardial ischemia, यानी कि हार्ट की कौन सी वॉल, एंटीरियर, इंफीरियर, लेटरल, ओके, और सेप्टल. सो जहां पे भी वॉल का माल फंक्शनिंग होगा बिकॉज ऑफ इस्चीमिया, तो वहां का इम्पल्स कंडक्शन विल बी हैम्पर्ड. Once the impulse conduction is hampered, you never know, the patient may present to you with bradycardia or with tachycardia or with a sinus rhythm. Rhythm भी हो सकता है कि sinus नहीं मिले. Okay. So the dictum is that we need to give beta blocker as early as possible, क्योंकि beta blockers they are said to have a myocardial salvage effect. They are going to reduce the size of the infarct. Reduce तो नहीं करते वो, basically this is the language which is used कि they are going to reduce the size of infarct. In other words, I would say that it is not going to let the infarct size increase. Okay, जो infarction एक बार हो चुका है उसको reduce नहीं कर सकते, हम उसको और फैलने से रोक सकते हैं with the help of beta blockers. So you have to give the beta blocker as early as possible so as to reduce the, or so as to prevent increase in the infarct size. Then the condition can be that the cardiac output is just not there. Okay, that means there is a pump failure. जब कार्डिक आउटपुट नहीं आएगा तो ऑब्वियसली बीपी लो होगा, एंड द ड्रग्स विच वी यूज इज फुरोसमाइड, ओके, देन वेसोडाइलेटर्स एंड आइनोट्रोपिक ड्रग्स. सो इट इज नॉट अ सिंगल गेम वेयर यू कैन से कि ओके अपन ने ये 5 दवाई दे दी तो काम हो गया. वो 5 दवाई देने के बाद भी यू हैव टू यूज योर ब्रेन to add subtract the medicine until and unless the patient is settled. Then another thing is prevention of thrombus extension, that is venous thrombosis. Occlusion artery में हुआ है because of the plaque which consists of the cholesterol, as well as there is aggregation of platelets on that plaque. So that is now becoming a thrombus. So ये thrombus dislodge होके कहीं और नहीं चले जाए within the blood circulation, plus और ज़्यादा thrombosis नहीं बने in the circulation, उसके लिए we have to give blood thinners, which are the aspirin, the clopidogrel, then heparin and other oral anticoagulants. So aspirin is given in a dose of 162 to 325 milligram stat, and then 80 to 160 milligram per day. So aspirin has got a very important role at the time of myocardial infarction. Then in addition to aspirin, another blood thinner is the clopidogrel. So another condition is when the thrombus has been set in, we are going to use thrombolysis and reperfusion technique. जब थ्रोम्बस बन गया है, पेशेंट हमारे पास 1 to 2 hours में आ गया है, then we use fibrinolytic, lytic is lysis, यानी कि थ्रोम्बस को डिसॉल्व करने वाली मेडिसिन्स we give. They are the plasminogen activator, LT-place, tenecteplase, and their major role is in ST segment elevation, MI. So multiple things are there, and you need to decide which drug to be used for which patient in the given time span. And then once the ischemia has happened, myocardial necrosis has happened, the heart have gone into failure condition, that is congestive heart failure. The ejection fraction of the heart has reduced from 60% to 30% or say 40%. In that case, the drugs which bring about remodeling of the heart muscle walls, they are the ACE inhibitors or the angiotensin receptor blockers, that is lisinopril, ramipril. They modulate the necrosed portion of the heart. Okay, suppose one of the wall of the heart is not functioning because of necrosis. So जो कॉन्ट्रैक्शन नॉर्मल होता है जिसके अंदर एंटीरियर वॉल, इंफीरियर वॉल, द lateral and the septal walls, they all are going to move together during contraction and relaxation. But suppose myocardial injury has hit the lateral wall में necrosis हो गया है, तो this wall will not move, क्योंकि उसमें ना contraction होगा ना relaxation होगा. Only three walls will move now: anterior, inferior and this medial, that is the septal wall. तो heart will not be able to pump much of the blood, क्योंकि ये वाला एक्शन इतना नहीं होगा, ये बंद होगा और ये सिर्फ जो रिमेनिंग थ्री वॉल्स हैं उसी पे ही कॉन्ट्रैक्शन एंड रिलैक्सेशन होगा. सो बिकॉज ऑफ दिस वी आर गोइंग टू गिव द ड्रग्स which are going to remodulate the heart. Remodulation means कि ओके आपकी एक वॉल डिस्ट्रॉय हो चुकी है, तो हम उन दवाइयों से आपका जो रिमेनिंग थ्री वॉल्स हैं, वी वांट देम टू फंक्शन इफेक्टिवली विथ अवेलेबल थ्री वॉल्स. ओके, वन ऑफ द वॉल इज नाउ डैमेज्ड. सो this is how the ACE inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers, they cause remodulation in the shape of the heart and support the heart. And then we have to further see that there is no future attack to such kind of patient, and so we continue giving clopidogrel, beta blockers and statins. Statins are your lipid lowering drugs. So these drugs, they continue for another 1 to 2 years. So we see that what we have to do first, we have to handle the acute condition. Acute condition को handle करने के बाद, if there is any complication of heart attack, क्या क्या हो सकती हैं complications? One is arrhythmia, another is pump failure, okay, and there can be dislodge of thrombus to any other blood circulation area. So you have to manage the heart attack, that is MI, then you have to manage its complications if they are visible, and then you have to further protect the heart for a long time going forward through prophylactic drugs. So these prophylactic drugs are your clopidogrel, beta blockers and statins. कार्डियक में दवाइयाँ लिमिटेड हैं, उन लिमिटेड दवाइयों में ही दिमाग लगाना है कि उसको देना कैसे है, and that comes through experience, through your knowledge. So coming to one of the question, पढ़िए, and if anyone wants to answer, can answer. Question is, which drug is contraindicated for her hypertension treatment? Why? Okay, beta blockers we are contraindicating in diabetic and asthmatics. Good. Which option will you choose? Which combination should be avoided? नहीं करेंगे कुछ अवॉइड? First is nitrate and beta blocker. Who agrees for it? पहला ऑप्शन किसको पसंद है? सेकंड? थर्ड? कौन सा ऑप्शन रहेगा इसमें? इट विल बी बीटा ब्लॉकर एंड कैल्शियम चैनल ब्लॉकर. ओके, तो इस तरह से यू हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई द क्लिनिकल कंडीशन, यूज योर नॉलेज एंड देन आंसर एंड देन गो अहेड. ओके.